Dream. Let's focus on you because this podcast is about you. So
My favorite thing.
recording.
My favorite thing to focus
we
on.
are recording. Adam, I am so excited to have you on the show. It's been probably 10 years since I've seen you.
Yeah, flew by, right?
Yeah, maybe a decade, possibly more. Maybe actually, I think it's been 14 years. It's been 14 years since I've lived in Chinatown. So it's been really crazy, and I just want to thank you for being on the show. And I want to talk about your work.
Yeah, 14 years. Wow. I mean, I think we met right when I moved to New York. So I've been in New York 14 years.
What year did you move to New York?
2011. So
Okay, wow. I moved to New York in 2004, and we met around 2014 because I got divorced and I moved into the Division Street apartment.
yeah.
And that's when I was there, 2014.
Okay, yeah. So Forget Me Not had been open for maybe a year or two at that point. The restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get into Forget Me Not? Because you also are a co-founder in Kiki's, just in case people don't know.
Yeah. Well, news alert. I've actually been out of the restaurants for about 2 years now. So, but for 10 years, yeah, I was a co-owner in Forget Me Not and Kiki's. Um, Randomly, you just kind of choose to do things for the excitement, and then it leads you down these interesting paths. And yeah, when I moved to New York, I was doing digital marketing, no plans of being an artist, a visual artist. I was creative, of course. And I got laid off within 2 weeks. I got laid off from my job after 2 weeks of moving here, and I started working on a food truck because I thought that would be fun. I always had this this vision of like slinging hot dogs on Nathan's on Coney Island, and what a great experience that would be. So I thought food trucks was a natural alternative. So I started working on a food truck, became really good friends with the owner of the food truck, and one thing led to another. And at the end of the year, after I had been in New York for 1 year, we had opened up Forget Me Not, a small little restaurant, dive bar in Chinatown. Yeah.
There are a lot of people that come around there. It's a really interesting place.
Yeah, I mean that whole neighborhood, so for 10 years, like Forget Me Not and Kiki's, and then my little restaurant group, which consists of a couple partners, they have continued to kind of expand um, their restaurant empire. But, when you're juggling two things for like a decade, art practice and restaurants, you can make it, they can survive, but it's kind of like if you have two flowers or two plants in one cup of water. Yeah, you can like kind of divvy it up and where you put your focus and your energy on, or you can just focus on one and just dump all that water on one plant and really see it grow and thrive. So I kind of came to that crossroads a couple of years ago. A lot of change, a lot of personal growth. Like over 10 years is a good run for the restaurant industry and partnership. So I just had to choose myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like Tesla, right? Energy flows wherever you direct it, and your energy has been flowing into your work. And I was gonna ask you, like, what was your dream as a kid? Did you see yourself as an artist growing up?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about I've been thinking about that lately because I'm very like kind of focused on that inner child way of thinking and kind of nourishing like that little Adam in me and what I wanted to do. And I was always a dreamer. Like I always wanted to do these like kind of like wild things. I played little league, so I wanted to be a professional baseball player. There was like a space camp idea I wanted to go, and space camp was a big deal growing up. I was like, maybe I'll be an astronaut. Uh, I was also growing up in the age when Macaulay Culkin was really popping as a child actor, and I really wanted to be an actor. I think it's all just about the experience. Like I like experiences, and even as a grown ass man, I still really live for the experience. So yeah, I wanted to be an actor. I remember begging my mom and dad to take me to open calls for like local playhouses. They never did. A family of four, a family with four children, busy parents, like they did the best. They were doing the best they could. Always encouraging, but not like, uh, you know, they're not picking me up and taking me to audition after audition. But they did support my drawing. I was always a very creative child, and I was always drawing and redrawing Looney Tunes and Disney characters. And I think if I were to apply an artistic, theme to my dream as a child, it was that I wanted to be an animator for Disney. That was my big dream as a kid. Yeah, but
You are
oh, go
you
ahead.
ended up kind of like you ended up kind of like combining everything. Like, you are a multimedia artist. Like what you're doing now. I met you as Adam Lucas. And I first saw the huge murals around the corner from my place. Like, it was on Kiki's, and there were these gorgeous, gorgeous murals. And I was like, who's doing these murals? They're incredible. And then I forget who. Somebody's like, "Oh yeah, it's Adam Lucas. He owns like Forget Me Not." And I think it might have been the Trump. It might have been the Trump dirt, or it might have been
Yeah.
like, oh, it was the avocado. It was the Homer Simpson avocado.
Yeah.
And they were just really clever. And you went by Banksy, and
Hanksy.
you had this Hanksy,
Yeah.
and you went by Hanksy. I will edit that. And and you had a whole entire persona as Hanksy, and it was performance art. And now you've grown into Adam Himebauch. Himebauch?
Yeah, Heimbach, good job. Yeah,
Adam Himebauch. And you've been doing that work, and I think it's, to the untrained eye, it's easy to see you just as an illustrator, but you really truly are a multimedia artist because you tell stories across many different mediums.
yeah, yeah. Always been playing that character, whether I knew it or not, since I arrived in New York. I mean, my whole life, or everyone's lives, you play these roles. Look, it's so easy to retrofit things with meaning when you look back. But when I was doing that Hanksy project, it was a performance project. I was playing a character, and then it's since people like to kind of label you and kind of put you in a position or a corner, and you realize that, like, oh, I'm not that, I'm so much more. So let's really see how big this life and this artistic life can get. So that's when I really started kind of incorporating other elements and like really kind of fulfilling some creative desires that I have in me. Yeah, and all those things I mentioned about all these dreams I had as a kid and these experiences I get, I'm doing them now, and I've just been able to kind of filter them through my art practice, playing characters, acting, directing. Um, I'm a great painter, so I'm still making visual art, and I'm having a lot of fun with my friends, which is what I did as a kid. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for playing and remembering how to play as you grow up, because I think people just abandon play, but play is how you learn. Play is how animals learn. You see little animals like roughhousing with each other in the forest, like little bears, but they're learning how to hunt. And with humans, I think play is such an important part in creativity because it leads to evolutions. Because if we don't play, we don't evolve.
Yeah, I mean, life is, play is where that kind of the magic happens. Otherwise, we're trying to control everything, and everything's pre-planned. And if you follow these rules or this guideline, you'll get where you want to be, where you think you're supposed to be. But it's play, and when you allow mistakes to come in and be okay with like the outcome, like that's where it really exists. The creative intuition.
You, speaking of play and narrative, I wrote down this question, and I'm really curious to see what you're going to say in regards to it. Because how do you see narrative driving commodification in the art world? I guess in a simpler way, I'll try to break it down as to like big publications like Art Forum and all the critics, they set the narrative for who can be an artist.
Mm-hmm.
But in a way, if you create your own narrative, which you've done with Adam Himebauch, and most recently you made it into the New York Times, which is narrative setting itself. So, um, how do you see the narrative driving commodification in the bigger art world, and how do you kind of like control your own narrative? I guess they're two-part questions. It's a big question.
Um, the commodification of the art world is a thing. And if you want to make a living and you want to make money and you want to continue doing, making art for a living, it's a game that you play into. So you're keeping that in mind. Some artists, they don't pay any attention to that. But for me, it's like, well, I make beautiful paintings, and I want my beautiful paintings to sell, and so I can fund my projects and continue on making more things. Uh, the way I look at my paintings, they stand on their own. They're beautiful, these serene landscapes right now that I'm painting. They're a piece of art. You put it on the wall, people understand that as a piece of art. I do like performative and conceptual work as well. I like headline worthy projects. I like making headlines. I like marketing. There's an art in that as well. So I really view my paintings as a large, tangible souvenir that can be bought and traded, that represent a larger, more kind of visionary art piece, like big ticket stubs that exist on a wall. And people can look at these things and they're very beautiful. They're art and it's a painting, and I understand that, and it's great. But wait, there's more. That's what I like. And I know that's what collectors and supporters of the arts like. They like the story. So that's how I can kind of balance me having that one foot in the art marketplace, and then the rest of my body existing in this playful maelstrom of creative emotion.
You have a show coming up in Miami in a few days, right?
Yeah, next month.
Can you share a little bit about it?
Yeah, there are these 12 beautiful kind of windowscapes. I've been thinking about my paintings. That the last few shows have been these paintings that you know act as portals. They use the framing of a window as the vehicle. So yeah, it's the show's called Serenity now, and kind of there's 12 monochromatic landscapes that are both fact and fiction, kind of inspired by this trip to Jamaica I took in September. I was down there for like a little over a week. I had just separated from my girlfriend, and just kind of soaked up the vibes. And when I came back to New York, I knew I had this body of work to paint. So I just, I'm like a sponge in that way. Just whatever I take in also pours out. So, yeah, I'm really excited about the show because the paintings are fantastic. And usually what happens, because since I do like the balance between the painting and the spectacle, a lot of times, majority of the attention kind of goes to the spectacle because that's what's new or that's what's different than what everyone else does. So this show, there is the spectacle is the paintings. There's no gotcha moments. There's no pranks or performances. It's 12 beautiful paintings.
Well, what I like about your art is it's really timeless and it's very serene. And I think especially in like really crazy times like this, like I found myself like kind of just like gazing at your paintings at night and just like escaping into them mentally because I was like, this seems like a happy place. So I think your work is really innovative, and I think it really takes landscapes, something that a lot of artists attempt, and it really really does something that hasn't been done before. You really play with the texture, you really play with the medium, and you really bring a really different element to the work that is very your own. There's nothing you can't compare it to really anything that exists. It's very unique, and I was gonna ask you like your art. It's okay. It's okay. Go ahead. Life. We're just moving through life. It's just, like it's just moving through life.
But yeah, to say about those paintings, thank you so much. I mean, like my conceptual or performative work, I think when I with my paintings, I want people to question what they're looking at, and the curious mind's rewarded. Like you think you know something, so you look closer, and it's not what it appears. You deal with different layers or textures, and it looks like it's collage, but it's all painted. It's this kind of synthetic depth that I create, very much like stage design, the foreground, middle ground, background. I like to paint big and large scale because I want the viewer, whoever stands in front of the painting, to feel like they could walk into it. So while they're landscapes, they almost become figurative in that way because it's the viewer who completes the art, the experience. So
It's like a big hug.
yeah, yeah, and so looking back at these paintings surrounding me right now in Miami at Jupiter, it's at Jupiter Gallery. Great gallerists. I'm excited to work with them. It's a big white rectangle. So I'm going to position these paintings evenly throughout the space, mix and match these monochromatic colors, and it'll look like you're standing in one room looking out on a continuous horizon through these stained glass like windows. Um, so there's the experience there. It's still about the experience. Most people absorb art through their little 1 inch glowing screen on the phone. And that's what I saw that art. I saw that art. Well, something happens when you stand in front of a physical painting or in an environment. You might not even sense it, but there's an experience and a presence that happens, and that's what I like.
Yeah, I mean, it's really about experiencing scale. It's about experiencing texture, and it's also experiencing the light, because the light of the day, when you view the art, changes the exhibit. And there's something to be said about leaving our screens and going out into the world, because I feel like that's happening less and less. And also, our budgets are getting cut. And also, our education seems to be falling to the side in many places. I'm going to go off on a tangent now and I'm going to reel myself back, but I'm going to ask you, uh, your art invites viewers to question reality. What do you question these days?
Authority. Well, I think that's that natural kind of like teenage punk in me, and grew up playing and absorbing punk music and playing in punk bands. So there's always that like kind of pushback that I like. But in but truthfully, it's I I really don't question a lot. I realize and understand that there are no rules really in the art world. So knowing that, I kind of like to push buttons a little bit or step over lines that don't even really exist. And seeing my trajectory in my art practice, in my life, and all the wild experience and chapters I've had, um, by living my life and producing my art and doing what I want, I like that it gives permission for others to do the same. Um, yeah,
Being punk rock is all about controlling your narrative. Being punk rock is all about owning yourself
mm-hmm.
and fighting the man and really having autonomy, which I think is becoming such a topic these days too. And I think it's interesting because it's having a different context for different people. Like, what is autonomy? I think it becomes fragmented for everyone, which is a really wild thing to see, because language is taking on so much more meaning than what I grew up with,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, we had the authority and then we had punk rock when we were growing up. I think we were around the same age. But now everything is just, there's just different concepts of what everything is. And it's very interesting because it's like, if you're against this, well, what is it? Because it seems like this authoritarian thing is now this like multi headed hydra, not even like three
Yeah.
three heads. So it's like, what are you rebelling against? Like, it's for me, it's like, what, where is my rebellion directed towards, and who? And like, it's very
Yeah.
interesting.
Do you have an answer for that? Do you know who you're pushing up against?
Um, I wasn't expecting to be interviewed. uh, for me personally, it's always going to be oppression, and it's always going to be people who are trying to silence
Mm,
voices. And I think it's always artists, it's always creatives, it's always underrepresented groups, and it's always the majority. It's always the people who have a harder time achieving their dream because the chips are stacked against them.
right.
So, whatever the man is these days, whatever the man is turning into, whether it's the oligarchy, the broligarchy, the tech
I
oligarchy
do.
that's coming on, I don't know. It's like I'm peering through a windshield and the windshield seems muddy. So I keep on having to clear the windshield to see what's ahead because frankly, I don't know what's going on. And I will admit that I don't know what's going on. I thought I did.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's all probably intentional. Muddy, make it
Yeah.
ambiguous so you get emotional whiplash back and forth, and you really kind of get shaken off your foundation. Um, the broligarchy, I just heard that term yesterday for the first time. It's real. What I push up against and what I question my authority, it's the authority of these made up, the made up authority or the rules or like our, the way our attention is sucked and siphoned into the digital world. And so much so that we pretend, we realize that we think it's a window to the world, but it really is, at the end of the day, it's just a cage. And push back, focus on the present moment. I agree with you, and I want everybody, and I do believe everyone can achieve their dreams. And, you know, there's enough opportunity for everyone. But we are playing with the cards where each of us are dealt. And we all have to take care of ourselves, and it's by taking care of ourselves, and then we can start really taking care of others. Um, so yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I mean, it's muddy waters right now. The windshield is a little bit muddy, or so dirty. So I'll just roll down my side window and I'll look out that.
Well, here's the question. What do you play in your car? What do you play in your studio when you are making art, right? Punk rock. I was a punk rock kid growing up. I had a punk rock show. That's how I kind of started doing my podcast. I would interview like the Misfits and Sick of It
Oh,
All, and I got
cool.
really good interviewing drunk punk bands. So, because if you can interview like drunk punk bands, it's smooth sailing from here.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you listen to?
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those cliche answers where it's like everything, but it really is just a mixed pot. I'll go through phases when I painted these landscapes. The initial layer was like 4 hours, a 4 hour session, and I put on Brian Eno, like music for airports, really meditative stuff. Um, so I'll go through stuff like that. The Pup, this Canadian band Pup, it's a punk band. I discovered them a few years ago, and they've really been like, they really revitalized kind of my interest, and I felt the same listening to them as I listened to Rancid when I was in middle school. Just like I felt the energy. I listened to a lot of Broadway musicals, West Side Story. I'll put those on. Newsies, the soundtrack to the Disney musical Newsies is probably my most listened to album ever. I know every word. Uh, a lot of John Williams scores from Spielberg movies, the Hook soundtrack from the 1992 Peter Pan movie Hook. All these things hit me in various ways, like especially when I'm really trying to like open that channel, be the be the be the vessel to some sort of magic that exists inside, how can I tap into that 10-year-old Adam?
Do you feel like you're a vessel for a 10-year-old Adam? It sounds like it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a vessel for a 10-year-old Adam, a 5-year-old Adam, a 15-year-old Adam, a 21-year-old Adam. I feel like I'm a vessel for 27-year-old Adam when he moved to New York, with big, wide eyes and a lot of ambition, but stuck in deep grief, you know? And I hold space for all of them.
Um, yeah, I mean, being an artist in New York is such a rare opportunity, and it's something it's such a special thing. And unless you're an artist in New York, you just don't know how special it is. You can read about it, you can think about it, but there's nothing like making art in New York, being around other artists, and just being in that energy. When I lived on Orchard Street, there was such an energy, and it was the same energy where it's the same energy that I felt in Williamsburg when I moved in 2004, 2002,
Mm,
before when the artists were moving in. It was loft parties, there was a lot of creativity. Everybody was young, everybody was hot. We're all broke, and everybody is just trying to like do their thing. And there was just such an exchange of ideas, and then, as the artists move in, then next the finance people move in. And then when the finance people move in and the coffee shops open, then there goes the neighborhood. Then you get the high rises, and then everybody's priced out of the neighborhood, and then everything turns into a Disneyland. But the creativity gets sucked out. I think it's really hard to become an artist these days in New York because it's so expensive. Like I moved to New York with just a roomie and just a few bucks, and I worked temp jobs until I got my art director job, and I just busted my butt like in any way we could,
yeah.
just so we can stay there, just so we can have a foot in there, just so we can have a little apartment in Spanish Harlem and be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's ever changing, you know. Good thing I like Disneyland, because it is Disneyland. Like, so similar experience that you had in Williamsburg, when we opened up for Gaby and I and Kiki's, there wasn't much in that neighborhood at all. And then you look at the past 2 or 3 years, and now it's been co-opted. It's called Dime Square, and it's like the coolest neighborhood in the world. You know, thinking even about Tribeca, my studio's been in Tribeca for 6 years now. When I moved into this building, there was maybe one gallery around the corner, and now many would consider it the center of Tribeca, the center of the art world, if not the world in general. New York City, most definitely. You know, uh, I don't know what that says about you or me or tastemakers or wanting to be at the forefront of things, but yeah, it's weird in New York. It's weird. It's weird because it is like I don't come from money. I don't come from. I've been really scraping by since got to New York. Even though the restaurants were busy and doing well, and they're still doing well, it's still like in one pocket and not the other. In the art world too. I've had my most outwardly successful years the last 2 years, but it's like still not like easy. You're still step after step, month after month. And I'm so grateful for all that. It is because that's what life is, the experience. And if you're not happy now, you're not going to be happy when you get that or whatever that is. Wherever you go, there you are. So, I mean, I'm fucking lucky as hell.
Right? You get to live your dream, and that is like the most amazing thing. And what I love about New York is that you never know what's going to happen the next day. You never know what amazing opportunity is going to come your way. And every day you wake up and you're like, what's going to happen today? What, like something incredible. You're going to meet somebody, or just you get an email, or like it's the land of possibilities. It really
Yeah,
is.
so
It's a very, very special place.
I agree. I would also say that I think that can happen anywhere. especially how connected we are these days. Yes, you're not going to turn the corner in small town USA and meet a director that offers you a role or an exhibition, but if you put yourself out there, whether it's things can happen. Activity breeds activity. Um, the New York, the myth of the New York artist, which I love and I subscribe to, and people put the label on me, it still exists. But I also believe that um, that could be an outdated way of thinking. The way how connected we are these days, and how social media and the internet really makes things a level playing field in some regards.
That's so true, right? Like, because I just realized myself too, because it's also like a time frame that I'm kind of locked into thinking. But then I have a lot of amazing friends in Hong Kong that are amazing artists. I have friends in Kyoto. There's so much art going around, and it is kind of going global. I was gonna ask you, like,
Oh, one
what do
second,
you
hold
want
on.
the
No,
audience to?
no, no,
Oh, okay,
no.
go for it. Go for it.
Oh. How are you? I'm doing an interview right now. And you doing good? See this? See you later. It was a good time.
I love it. I kind of want to keep it in the podcast
Oh yeah,
just because it's life. It's like, like this is life. We do things, but then like life keeps on going. Life keeps on knocking on your door,
I mean,
bringing you gifts.
yeah, thank you. What an abundance. Yeah. But you were
Thank
you
you.
were
Nice.
saying.
I was saying, I was saying, what do you want the audience to take away from your art?
I could probably give you a list of 20 things, and they would all be true. So let's pick one or two. They're pretty paintings right now. The paintings are pretty. They're beautiful. I want to bring some, in a chaotic world, I would like to bring some serenity to whoever looks at them and stands in front of them. In the larger thing, my practice as a whole, I would like to give permission. See that if I'm able to do it, then you're able to do it. And for artists and creatives and people in general to realize that your limiting beliefs are just that. They're limiting and they're beliefs. So you can choose to not believe them anymore and do whatever you want. Create whatever you want. There are no rules. There really are no rules in the art world. And
I don't think that
yeah,
in the
in the
world.
world.
Yeah, they're gone.
Well, I mean, as crazy as this world is like chaotic, and like the last decade, if you look back, like there's been so many things, so many occurrences. Well, like they can't do that, and they can't. Well, it shows that you can do things that you previously thought you couldn't. Now, of course, there's morals and there's like right and wrong, of course, but as an artist, you can really take a lesson that you can break rules and you can do whatever you want.
Your current work plays with reality, time, and space, both physical and imagined. What is the next realm for you? Like you've done literally everything. You've done video. You've done like do you have an idea of what you're gonna develop next?
I think that I will just explore a lot of those. I will dive deeper into that world a little bit more. I don't know. There'll probably be musical elements coming in. Really, it's just starting to blossom. I've been making art, professionally in New York since I moved here, so for 14 years. But I only really recently, in the last few years, as I've like kind of really come into my own and started using my full name, Adam Himebauch. And like I'm really scratching the surface. The future is bright, and I'm excited.
What is your process for starting a new project? Do you like scribble down on a piece of paper and like keep it in your back pocket? Do you just like come into the studio and just like start going ham? Like, do you have a process?
I'm a big fan of intentional journaling, um, both intentional journaling and just like brain dump journaling in the morning, you know. And from that, 2 or 3 pages every day, I'll write down whatever. And so I have this glossary of ideas and these projects and things I would love to see come to fruition out there, both in written form, and I have a Google Doc with project ideas. And when an opportunity arises where I have a project or a show or an exhibition or I need something, I can kind of just pool and source from there. I have these grandiose projects I want to see come into my life. They might not, but I've noticed that if I'm able to take the nugget of art in that project and have it come to fruition and realized, that satisfies a lot of that want to see that big project happen. And then I can kind of check off the box and move on to the next one, if that makes sense.
It does. And you're a really good writer. You're actually a really great writer. I can't even use the word good because good is like mediocre. Great is the appropriate term. Just some small Instagram captions that you write. Like you tell stories on Instagram. And I don't know if these stories are true. I don't know if they are fabrications, but they're incredible stories. Like the one where you wrote about finding a dead body on the beach on vacation.
True story. 100% true. That was an actual journal entry that I read. Yeah.
Like that was insane. You were on vacation and you
Yeah, that wasn't.
I,
So it's the thing. It's like this weird kind of boy who cried wolf thing, or the beginning of when you first meet Willy Wonka and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and he comes out on a cane and he's wobbling, and then he somersaults, and he realizes he didn't need the cane. Because from that point on, you don't know what's true and what's not. So when I realized a few years ago that social media doesn't really mean anything and it's all manipulated and everyone kind of frames everything how they want it to be framed, I did that year-long performance where I just kind of made up fabricated this character and how I see myself as an artist. Adam Himebauch, great artist. You got to believe it yourself before other people believe it, and that kind of really opened the gates of creativity as far as using social media as a medium, using perception as a medium. If you believe something is real, then it's real in a certain sense. So I've only really made up like a handful of projects on social media, and everything else, majority of everything else, 90% of the stuff I post is actual fact and things that have happened to me or I've done. But since I kind of laid the groundwork where this like kind of this cloud of ambiguity, it's like choose your own adventure. You can believe it's true or you can believe it's made up, and it doesn't really matter.
what is your dream as an adult?
My mom just called me. Can you ask that again? I don't know. This is my only like second podcast I've ever done, so I'm still learning the ropes.
Oh, I'm honored.
Yeah.
Thank you. I've been doing this for 8 years, and I took a break, and I'm really excited to do it. And there are so many amazing people that I'm friends with, and also that I just admire. And I was like, Adam has to be on the podcast because your work is incredible. It really is. You're one of these people that you're like, oh, I see them in passing. They're kind of around. We're on the same group. And then you're like, wow, that work is really special. Like that work is timeless, and it's timeless. Your work is timeless.
Thank you, Mila. That means so much to me. again, it's like I like pats on the back, but when they come from friends, I've been really trying to accept them these days instead of just like yeah. No, it means a lot. So thank you for saying that. My dream.
I think as a creative, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
No, no, please, you're the
Oh no,
guest.
I was going to answer the question about what's my dream as an adult. It constantly shifts. I'll give you two. I have these.
Can you make it three?
Okay,
Just make it
sure,
a
sure,
whole
sure.
trifecta.
All right. you know, an easy one that might come to fruition sooner than later is like I think it'd be really cool. They have this Luna Luna exhibit. Have you heard of this? Where they took all these amusement park rides that artists designed in the 80s, and they were in storage for years. And I think Drake bought the lot, and now it's this traveling exhibit. Very cool. Hockney, Basquiat, Herring, big list. I would like to make a current version of that where you could actually ride the rides. Someone please give me like 500 grand, and then I commission my favorite artist today to make it a current thing instead of this experience where you go and look at these massive sculptures as pretty and they're like a time machine. I want to make one where you can actually go on the rides. They're functional now, so that'd be cool. I feel like that's very easily to be that's obtainable.
I feel like that's very easily obtainable.
Yeah.
Like my brain is going like, oh, Coca-Cola can sponsor that easily. They have the money. They're huge. And you have an old park, or you build a new park.
And
I
you,
mean, it's all about bringing joy to people and bringing art to people, and like art should be experienced. Like we just think that art should just be behind walls and like something that's like revered, but there's something to be said for like performance art, which is kind of like what you do with Marina Abramovich, or Yoko Ono. Yoko Ono is my favorite artist of all time. And when she did the piece, when people came up to her and they cut her clothing,
yeah.
she was like, "Here's a pair of scissors. I'm just gonna have you cut my clothes off, and I'm gonna trust you with this pair of scissors."
Wow. The emotion, the experience that happened there.
Right, and then it's the interaction. It's seeing the ride. It's being on the ride, and then also thinking about the work that the artists put into it. Because I feel like sometimes people don't think about the time, how isolating the experience is sometimes. Because you're in your studio and you're creating and you're making art, and it's like a little cocoon, and then you send it out into the world.
Yeah, you set it out in the world, and you don't, and it might, and it takes on a life of its own. You know. I do so that experience, the human experience, like I do feel like that's where the future of creativity and art is moving, especially as we like really kind of like dive into this digital age, full body AI, things like that. We're gonna reach to a point where you'll be able to put in any prompt and see yourself in a movie or see your favorite actor in a certain scene. Like you can curate anything you want. Um, so I do think the art world will eventually move in a direction that is based on that that actual human experience and the emotion that comes up that can't be replicated or duplicated with AI. Or it's not on a screen. It's something that happens in you, and that in person, like theater will. I feel like theater will be where majority of where once people wanted to go to Hollywood to be actors, I feel like they will be those Hollywood actors will now pivot to the stage because that's something that can't be replicated, the human in-person experience.
Unless you just have a hologram theater production, Tupac
Well, even
on Tupac on Tupac
yeah, it's gonna be a blend
doing
for a
Shakespeare.
while. Yeah, it'll be a blended thing. I think we're in this interesting area where to make art of today, use the tools of the day. So it's like we're in this kind of in between at the moment. But yeah, so an amusement park. Let's go. Someone get on
I love
board.
it. Let's make it happen.
Wouldn't that be something if this little conversation gave birth to this big project? I mean,
Wouldn't that be
the pitch
amazing?
is like you can because everyone wants to make money. Like you will be able to charge a lot of money for these tickets, and But then also like making it available for low income, free tickets, schools, children. Like
You,
that idea should be it should be a traveling it should be a traveling sculpture carnival. That's not so just stationed there. Like it should like you can travel through to the big cities. You can go to Tokyo. It can be in New York. A dozen of these rides make people sign waivers. I mean, you see amusement park carnivals traveling all the time. You see it. Like it's possible. So how cool would that be to I went to a carnival under the bridge in Long Island City last year. Like they had like a couple dozen rides. You don't have to sign anything. You just go. It's just $10. You gotta. It's like we can charge more, but like that'd be so cool to have. A modern art take on it. So it'd be these traveling rideable sculptures. Yeah. And
you would also be able to house them, and you would be able to preserve them well if I mean, granted, they might get beat up a little bit.
that's the beauty of them.
Okay, something to think about. Okay, I love this idea. Sorry, now it's turned into a brainstorming session. I did not expect this.
Do you know what Luna Luna is?
Yeah, yeah, I know what
Okay, yeah,
Luna
yeah,
is.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just,
know.
I mean, all art is just like updated things from the past. Take something.
That's all life is.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
yeah.
It's just a cyclical thing. Like take something that was successful in the past and update it for today, and there you go. You got a winner.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's a great idea, and I think it's feasible, and I think you can pull it off in like a year or two probably.
Oh
And
yeah.
you can it's a great idea. Okay, so I'm going to come back and focus on the podcast because we're going over. Okay. So what is your second idea for your dream?
Okay. Second idea from a dream is I would like to. Well, is there? Yeah. I mean, I was like, do they say
Your
these?
dream as an adult.
No, I have this big grandiose idea where I want to take over 4 city blocks in Manhattan, um, and I want to take the idea of what a Renaissance fair is. The idea, you go to this Renaissance fair and you live in it's all medieval. But I would like to take these 4 city blocks and control it for 10 years. And every 2 years, I would take all my set designer friends and my production friends, and I want to portray a different decade in New York City, and have all the people that live in these buildings dress in appropriate attire. I want to recreate what it is to be in New York in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. And no phones allowed. There will be photographs and there will be documentation. But yeah, that's what I want, because I think when you can go into the store and you'd have all brands would be able to have their products there and vintage and whatever it looked like in the 50s. You go into CBGBs and it's exactly like CBGBs. These bands playing. It was an aha moment walking around New York and Brooklyn when there's movies being filmed, and it's so they'll take over an entire block, and everything will be down to the smallest detail will be on point. And the way my imagination works, it's time traveling, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm walking through 1950s New York. One of the Safdie brothers just filmed a movie all throughout the Lower East Side a few months ago, and with Timothy Chalamet. But I'm walking around when they're not filming, and I'm looking around. It's like, this is amazing. A lot of people don't get to experience that. Mostly nobody really does. It's for the movie, but what if we allow that to be stretched out, and it's just almost like a destination? I think so. I just need $100 million for 1970s Renaissance fair. Yeah, that's it.
Were you there? You were on the Lower East Side when Soderbergh took it over for the Nick, and they turned it into the Nick. I went into the Blackbird coffee shop, And I was waiting for a coffee, and I look up, and I'm right behind Soderbergh, and I was like, "Don't be weird. Do not be weird. Be cool." And my friend actually handles all his archives, randomly enough.
Mm.
Or she did. I don't know if she still does. But like,
How cool
that
was
was
that?
amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was mind blowing. I went into a coffee shop. I just walked around looking at the set. They had hand drawn carriages. They had these like rickety fruit stands everywhere. They had dirt everywhere. They had horses. It just felt real.
They,
And there's something
yeah.
about living in these tenement apartments, but then like stepping out and really seeing history and thinking about how far or how not so far we've come. It's really incredible.
It really is. I was living on that block at the time when they filmed the Nick. You know, and they had that like 10 inches of dirt over the pavement to recreate that like 1900s like street look. And you know, if I stumbled out hungover, not knowing what was going on, like where the hell am I? You know, but it's so cool. You're really transported, and I think since nostalgia is and will always be a heavily marketed and enjoyable experience, I think that it'd be a really cool project to see to come to fruition. So
Is there a third one?
yeah, I mean, I could list a couple dozen of these like superficial desires.
But you know what? When they're spoken, you like create a spell and you put it out into the world, and maybe somebody who's listening is like, "Hey, I know how to get that done." Because I feel like a lot of dreams depend on people connecting them. Like again, Yoko Ono has my favorite line that I sign off on all my podcasts, on all my emails, saying, "A dream you dream alone is just a dream. A dream you dream with others is reality."
Hmm. I love that.
And like you can't, we are not an island. Nobody is an island. You know, even as an artist, you are making art for yourself, but there is a second part, which is the audience. So it takes two.
Hmm.
You know, like as an artist, would you be making art without an audience? Probably yes. You know, because we create, but the audience is the magical component of it because it brings joy to people.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it takes two to tango. I'm 100% agree. And like, yeah, I mean, no, I just been really doing a lot of reflecting lately, about like what do I want, like the artistic life and where I see my career headed, and these things I want to see accomplished. Like they're all just made up. They could happen, they could not. And when we die, we're just fucking dust. So it's about
Well, here's the crazy part. I've been thinking a lot about this because I had two humans pop out of my body, and it's just the most surreal
yeah,
thing. And I was like, how do we know there's not another portal? Like, I don't know. Like, the fact that these two humans came out of me is just insane.
hmm,
Like, it's art. It's making something.
oh yeah,
These children are art. They
magical.
are just they are just funny and hilarious, and they have their own ingrained personalities, which are, traits of ours. But like they are living, breathing AR art. And I'm like, where did they come from? Where did they exist? Where was I? Is there going to be something beyond? I don't know. I hope there is. I hope I can make some art in some other place.
Oh yeah. No one knows what happens. The only people that knows what happens after we die are already dead. Anyone that claims they are definitive and they're confident they know, you have to question. No one knows. So, yeah, you're the greatest sculptor. The female, the divine feminine is the greatest sculptor of all time. Um,
Hey, it takes two. It's not only the divine feminine. That's all I got to say.
thank you for throwing a little love to the man. um,
It takes two to create things. It takes two to multiply. So it's like, we are portals in our own way. Everybody contributes
yeah.
into this great creative project. But I do think about that. I do think about it. Sorry, I hijacked your
No, no, not
conversation again.
hijacked it at
Sorry, I don't
all.
get
No,
out
no, I
much.
have these, ooh, I have this big idea for the Guggenheim and how I could take over the Rotunda. Like this thing I want to do in my lifetime. And I hope it happens sooner than later. I have these very grandiose museum installations. Give me a little bit of budget and watch how big and magical it can be. Which speaks to what I was saying to earlier. Like if I'm able to satisfy a little bit of that like gives me presence in the moment and gratitude for the moment. Like I did that, it's cool. But so these things I want to do. I've been more thinking lately though about like my dream has shifted a bit, and like what can I really, like what is my heart's desire? Like what do I really want in here? These are all superficial things that play with the ego, the human ego. I have a very kind of good grasp on all that, but what do I really truly want? Because I keep hitting these peaks. I keep hitting these goals and these achievements, and when you get to one peak, I'm like, you're a little happy because you achieved it, and you look and you see another peak. Well, I want to do that, and I want to do that, and I want to get bigger, and this and this. And I think now I've just reached that point where it's like that will all happen, and I'll be happy. It happens, but like my dream right now is a little bit more based in like the heart and like partnership or family, something that I might have closed off a long time ago when my brother died.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So I read that post on your Instagram, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but since you brought it up,
Oh yeah.
if you don't mind me bringing it up, you wrote this really beautiful post about losing your brother in a car accident and then going back to the place and planting poppies in the space that was the final resting ground for your brother. So that actually happened.
Yeah. He passed away when he was 16. I was 19. And his best friend. Younger brothers. Like this was 4 siblings, and we were like the 3rd and 4th. Best friends, and shared a bedroom our whole life. And right when I was coming out into the world, 19, ready to like see you later, he died. Car accident, 1 car rollover, January 5th, an icy street in the middle of nowhere. Missed a stop sign in the country and flipped over, hit a guardrail. And so there's this ditch and ravine there, and the guardrail's still bent. Actually, it's been 22 years and the guardrail is still bent. So it's just like kind of like this interesting marker of time, something that happened. So I've driven past a few times, but I thought, yeah, let's take it back. Let's make something that was considered a blemish, horrible, and beautify it and change it and transform it. So I threw, all these wildflowers there, poppies, and they have kind of grown, and that's really just like it represents myself as well. How I was able to exist in this place of depression and grief for so long, not even knowing it, because if you look at me, gregarious, social, happy, successful. But looking back at that time, if I look at those photos and I look in my eyes, like, there was something unsettling there that hadn't been processed. So the last few years, I've took handfuls of wildflower seeds and threw them onto myself and kind of transformed something that was into something that currently is. And that's when I look at my life and how much I love myself and my career and my family and friends and how lucky and grateful I am. It's only because my brother died. I wouldn't be here without that. So it's kind of interesting. I was texting my cousin last night and I told him in a weird way, I'm thankful that happened, because I wouldn't have overcome and traversed, the darkest places of my soul to crawl out and be who I am today without that happening. So you have to be kind of thankful in a way.
Do you think you would have become an artist, or you would have gone in a different direction?
I don't know. I was studying, one of my dreams growing up was like, my dad was in the FBI, so I was like, I'm going to be in the CIA.
What? What?
Yeah, my dad was.
Wait, whoa. This is fascinating. Sorry, am I taking up your time?
No,
You have to go.
no, not at all.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief. But like, you can't just drop like my dad was in the FBI and then we're like, okay, podcast is over.
Yeah, he was, I don't know, for maybe 25, 30 years. He retired, but he was a special agent for the FBI. Kicking down doors, undercover, things like that. Uh, so I wanted to be in the CIA. I wanted to do espionage, and that's what I went to college for. I was taking Japanese international studies, and that's when my brother died, and that kind of derailed me. I dropped out of college and things like that. But my dad, he's comfortable talking about it now. But growing up, he was just he worked a lot, and he'd make himself available for school field trips as chaperones. But when he was working, like he said, he's plowing cars through cornfields, chasing down, criminals.
That's insane.
Yeah, yeah. He has this story about he was undercover for years, and he'd fly to New York, and he'd be undercover, him and his partner, working with the Italian mafia, and he'd rent, like he told me this one story where they used to rent out rooms at the plaza, two rooms and right next door to each other. And, one room would be him and his partner, and like they're setting up their equipment, and then the other room where they invite these members of these organized crime families to come and have meetings. And one time they thought they were being real slick by taking a wire microphone and going through one electrical outlet and feeding it into the other neighboring outlet. And they thought they were being real slick, and they shorted out the power in the whole floor of the plaza. And hotel staff came and was checking on everybody, and like, oh yeah, we're good, not knowing that they were the ones who caused the power outlet
Oh my
outage. Yeah,
God.
funny stuff.
Whoa, whoa. I mean, the stories. That's a movie. That's a Scorsese movie right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. He actually he's got a lot of stories, and I think he's written a lot down. I mean, he's had a lot of different lives as well. He they were I almost would not be here. None of my family would, because they were supposed to take a trip from they were based out of Chicago into New York, and their connection in New York, this mafia member, they were on the phone, and they were like, come to New York, yeah, we're gonna figure everything out, it's all good. And when they hung up the phone, my dad's superior was like, you are not going to New York. Like, bad vibes, bad vibes. Something's not right. So they didn't end up going. 6 months later, they ended up arresting this mafia member, and they were like, those two young Russians that you had working with us, like, if they would have showed up, we were gonna kill them when we picked them up. So if my dad's boss hadn't gotten bad vibes, I wouldn't be here right now. So
That is crazy. That is so interesting. It takes a lot of creativity to be in the FBI. So I can see how there's like a lineage
yeah,
because it's creating personas.
yeah, 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 yeah. My dad.
Do you think you're closer to your mom or your dad?
Right now, I can thankfully say that I am equally close to both of them, and I have great relationships with them both. And I'm thankful that they are my parents, and how lucky and grateful I am for it. My dad is more the more reserved one. My mother was always the more creative one, and we're all just a combination of our influences, and our parents are our biggest influences.
Yeah, it's like a generator. It's really interesting. Like it's really crazy. I think about who is the primordial OG that like crawled out of the ocean
Yeah.
and like that I have the traits of, because they seem like my mom and I were talking about it, because my kid is like very feminine, but she's a tomboy. And I was like, oh, that's me. And that's also my mom. So I'm like, this is obviously like genetic. So who's the first thing that crawled out and was like, this is how I'm going to be? What is this algorithm that's been programmed and passed down? Like it's so interesting to think about, because it's like You know, like everything that has to have occurred for you and I to even be here. Like survive the Black Plague in Europe. My family had to. I'm like, how the hell did we survive the Black Plague? Where were we? I
Yeah.
don't know. You know, like I don't, your side of the family, like I don't know what they had. Like the fact that we're here making art is so special.
And so, yeah, I mean, you can go back one generation, 20 generations, our ancestors. The things that have had to occur to get to us right now conversing over, you know, in the internet and like be here today making art. Wow, how grateful am I? I know if my mother had had a different life, she was meant for the big city. She was meant for the razzle dazzle, but she didn't, and she lived her life, and then that allowed me to live my life, and how grateful I am for that. The decisions that have been made to allow me to make my own decisions. It's powerful stuff.
It's powerful stuff. I feel like this end of the podcast, there was a lot of powerful stuff I didn't expect. We went rogue. It's so interesting what people's lives are, and like, who we know, who we don't know, and what we know, and
Which is we know nothing in the
we
grand
know
in the
nothing, and how this world
in
works.
the grand scheme of things. We know a sliver of what we would consider truth.
I think that's a really wonderful sentiment, that we only know a sliver of the truth, and I think that's such a lovely way to wrap up the podcast, because it really ties back to your work. It's a really lovely way to bookend your work. We only know a sliver of the truth, and this conversation came out of something that we probably cut from the podcast. But again, this it's and reality is whatever you make it, and reality is whatever you utter. Did you know that the word Hollywood exists because there's a belief that there were wizards in the hills of Hollywood using the holly tree, writing incantations and spells and sending them out into the world?
I did not know that.
Yes, from the Hollywood tree.
Oh wow. Okay. Now I know. Now I know a little bit of that, more of that sliver.
Right? So let's make more incantations, and I hope to see your project of the traveling art carnival coming across, because that would be amazing. I would love to see Andre Serrano on one of the rides.
Yeah.
I love Andres. Andres is great. I haven't spoken to him in years. He's a friend of mine too. But like, just do a controversial ride right there.
Yeah. I mean, anything's possible. I think it. I don't know. The future is bright. I should be wearing sunglasses.
You should. You should. I will too. Next time I see you, I'll have them. All right, I gotta go run and do stuff. But thank you so much for taking the time to connect and talk and share a bit about your life and share a lot about your work, which is one. They're all one.
They're all one. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Truly, I really appreciate you.
Truly,
Yeah.
truly, thank you for making the time.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning into the show. I hope you enjoyed it. Please share on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Dream Nation Love. It's not Dream Nation Podcast, it's Dream Nation Love, because I think my single mission in life is to teach people how to love a little bit more, and together we can save the world. So it's Dream Nation Love. Share it with your friends. Have a great day, and go out and make the world a better place.